Olá, boa tarde. Meu nome é Mariana Bolfarini, sou vice-coordenadora da Cátedra de Estudos Irlandeses William Butler Yeats, da Faculdade de Filosofia, Letras e Ciências Humanas da Universidade de São Paulo. E é uma alegria estarmos aqui hoje, virtualmente reunidos, para a terceira sessão da série Poesia ao Meio Dia deste ano de 2025. A série foi criada em 2021 pela coordenadora da cátedra, a professora Laura Izarra, e por Susan Roy, que neste momento dispensa apresentações. Na Irlanda, neste mês, comemora-se, além da Páscoa, o aniversário da Revolta da Páscoa de 1916, e esse é o tema dos poemas cuidadosamente escolhidos por Susan. So, without further ado, I will now give the floor to Susan, who will gift us with her reading and comments of the poem. So, thank you, Susan.
Thank you very, very much. And as usual, it's lovely to be here. As you have just nicely put it, we are approaching Easter here in Ireland, having just celebrated St. Patrick's Day. So it's a time when we think a lot about being Irish, and Irish nationalism is to the fore. So I thought it might be appropriate with you to share some poems that tell you about Ireland's struggle for independence, which culminated in the Easter 1916 rising. And at the moment, I think, you know, with all that's going on in our world, a lot of people looking for independence, for their freedom, for their national rights. It's also nice to think about Ireland's struggle and how much we forfeited and gave up in the past as well. And like, that is why we are so in tune with those who are doing that nowadays. So as well as like the religious and historical weight around Easter, we do have lots of traditions that we also celebrate here in Ireland, like Easter eggs and Easter bunnies and the usual celebrations, family get-togethers. But basically, there are many commemorations of on Easter Sunday in various parts of Ireland. The actual rising of 1916 started on Easter Monday. And that was, it was a failed revolt against British rule, but it became a pivotal moment in the struggle for Irish independence. And the British retaliated by executing the ringleaders, including the very famous Pádraig Pearse, James Connolly, and Joseph Mary Plunkett. And they arrested thousands of suspected rebels. So following this event, there was years of devastating conflict in Ireland, but this eventually resulted in our independence in 1922. So, as I said, on Easter Sunday, there's a number of commemorations across the country to honour the Irish who fought and died during that bloody time. William Butler Yeats was very much part of this movement, this great literary revival which was going on at the time. And though he wasn't in favour of revolution, following the events of 1916, he was very much on board with the whole nationalist movement. My first poem that I'm going to read for you today is by him, and it's called 16 Dead Men. Oh, but we talked at large before the 16 men were shot. But who can talk of give or take, what should be and what not, while those dead men are loitering there to stir the boiling pot? You say that we shall still the land till Germany's overcome. But who is there to argue that? Now Pearse is deaf and dumb. And is there logic to outweigh MacDonagh's bony thumb? How could you dream they'd listen, that have an ear alone for those new comrades they have found, Lord Edward and Wolfe Tone, or meddle with our give and take, that converse bone to bone. So on Easter Monday, the proclamation of the Republic was read by Patrick Pearse in front of the General Post Office. And this was read on the 24th of April, 1916. And the proclamation was a document that formed the assertion of Ireland as a republic, as a sovereign independent state. And there were 7 signatories to that proclamation. They were people like Thomas Clarke, Sean McDermott, Pádraig Pearse, James Connolly, Thomas MacDonagh, Eamon Cant, and Joseph Plunkett. And all of those were court-martialed and executed after the failure of the Rising. But I guess the revolutionary spirit and the belief of Irish independence, it characterises the poets of that time. And indeed, Pádraig Pearse was himself a great poet, as was Joseph Plunkett and Thomas MacDonagh. So I'm now going to share with you some of their poetry. And I'm going to start off with Pádraig Pearse, who was himself born in Dublin. He was a great Gaeilgeoir. He spoke Irish, and he had a great passion for Irish literature and language. And he was a playwright and a poet, a journalist, and a teacher, and a founding member of the Irish Volunteers. And I suppose his involvement with the Irish Volunteers led him to have a major role in planning the Rising. And as president of the provisional government, Pearse read the proclamation and issued the order for the surrender after the GPO was evacuated. He was executed by firing squad on the 3rd of May. But he wrote this very strong, wonderful poem called The Rebel. I am come of the seed of the people that sorrow, that have no treasure but hope, no riches laid up but a memory of an ancient glory. My mother bore me in bondage. In bondage my mother was born. I am the blood of serfs. The children with whom I have played, the men and women with whom I have eaten, have had masters over them, have been under the lash of masters, and though gentle, have served churls. The hands that have touched mine, the dear hands whose touch is familiar to me, have worn shameful manacles, have been bitten at the wrist by manacles, have grown hard with the manacles and the taskwork of strangers. I am flesh of the flesh of these lowly. I am bone of their bone. I that have never submitted. I that have a soul greater than the souls of my people's masters. I that have vision and prophecy and the gift of fiery speech. I that have spoken with God on the top of his holy hill. And because I am of the people, I understand the people. I am sorrowful with their sorrow. I am hungry with their desire. My heart has been heavy with the grief of mothers. My eyes have been wet with the tears of children. I have yearned with old wistful men and laughed or cursed with young men. Their shame is my shame, and I have reddened for it. Reddened for that they have served, they who should be free. Reddened for that they have gone in want, while others have been full. reddened, for that they have walked in fear of lawyers and their jailers with their writs of summons and their handcuffs. Men, mean and cruel. I could have borne stripes on my body rather than this shame of my people. And now I speak, being full of vision. I speak to my people, and I speak in my people's name, to the masters of my people. I say to my people that they are holy, that they are august despite their chains, that they are greater than those that hold them, and stronger and purer, that they have but need of courage, and to call on the name of their God. God the unforgetting, the dear God that loves the peoples, for whom he died naked, suffering shame. And I say to my people's masters, beware. Beware of the thing that is coming. Beware of the risen people who shall take what ye would not give. Did ye think to conquer the people? Or that law is stronger than life and than man's desire to be free? We will try it out with you, ye that have harried and held, ye that have bullied and bribed, tyrants, hypocrites, liars. A very famous poem written by Pádraig Pearse, which absolutely captures that sense of the rebel, which I think is still inside most Irish men and women to this day. We've just celebrated Mother's Day last Sunday here in Ireland. We have the same Mother's Day as the English. And Pádraig Pearse wrote this very beautiful poem called The Mother, in which he sympathizes with mothers and their suffering, and also Mother Ireland and seeing her sons go out to die. So I'd like to dedicate this to all the mothers out there. I do not grudge them, Lord. I do not grudge my 2 strong sons that I have seen go out to break their strength and die. They and a few in bloody protest for a glorious thing. They shall be spoken of among their people. The generations shall remember them and call them blessed. But I will speak their names to my own heart in the long nights, the little names that were familiar once round my dead hearth. Lord, thou art hard on mothers. We suffer in their coming and their going. And though I grudge them not, I weary of the long sorrow. And yet I have my joy. My sons were faithful and they fought. The next signatory and person who was executed is Thomas MacDonagh. He was also a poet. He was born in 1878 and was from County Tipperary. He trained as a priest, but he ended up as a teacher. Again, he had that lifelong love of the Irish language, and he joined the Irish Republican Brotherhood in April 1915, and also recruited Eamon de Valera, who went on to be one of the great leaders Taoiseach and President of Ireland. MacDonagh was executed by the firing squad in Kilmainham on the 3rd of May, 1916. And of course, he acknowledged that the firing squad were only doing their duty. And he famously offered the officer in charge his silver cigarette case, saying, "I won't be needing this. Would you like to have it?" His poem that I want to read to you now is called Wishes for My Son. Now, my son, is life for you, and I wish you joy of it. Joy of power in all you do, deeper passion, better wit than I had, who had enough, quicker life and length thereof, more of every gift but love. Love I have beyond all men, love that now you share with me. What have I to wish you then, but that you be good and free, and that God to you may give grace in stronger days to live? For I wish you more than I ever knew of glorious deed, though no rapture passed me by that an eager heart could heed, though I followed heights and sought things the sequel never brought. Wild and perilous holy things, flaming with a martyr's blood, and the joy that laughs and sings where a foe must be withstood, joy of headlong happy chance, leading on a battle dance. But I found no enemy, no man in a world of wrong, that Christ's word of charity did not render clean and strong. Who was I to judge my kind, blindest groper of the blind? God to you may give the sight and the clear undoubting strength, wars to knit for single right, freedom's war to knit at length, and to win through wrath and strife to the sequel of my life. But for you, so small and young, born on Saint Cecilia's day, I in more harmonious song now for nearer joys should pray. Simple joys, the natural growth of your childhood and your youth, courage, innocence and truth. These for you, so small and young, in your hand and heart and tongue. The third signatory, also a poet, Joseph Mary Plunkett. He was the son of a papal count, and with his friend and tutor Thomas MacDonagh, Plunkett and a man called Edward Martin established the Irish Theatre and the Irish Review Journal. As editor, Plunkett was an increasingly political, and he supported workers' rights, Sinn Féin and the Irish Volunteers, and embarked on a mission to Germany to obtain arms. And following that, he was appointed to the military council. And so he was heavily involved in the preparations for the 1916 Rising. And even though he was ill, he joined the efforts at the GPO. He famously married his sweetheart, Grace Guilford, in the prison chapel on the 4th of May, just 7 hours before he was executed. And for those who watched last month, I introduced you to the song Grace, which is a wonderful love poem about Grace, written and sung, and recalls that famous marriage in Kilmainham jail just before Joseph Mary Plunkett was shot. His poem I'm going to share with you today is called I See His Blood Upon the Rose. I see his blood upon the rose, and in the stars the glory of his eyes. His body gleams, and amid eternal snows, his tears fall from the skies. I see his face in every flower. The thunder and the singing of the birds are but his voice, and carven by his power, rocks are written words. All pathways by his feet are worn. His strong heart stirs the ever-beating sea. His crown of thorns is twined with every thorn. His cross is every tree. The 1916 Rising continued to influence the medium of poetry throughout the 20th and 21st centuries. And in 2016, the Republic of Ireland celebrated the centenary of the Easter Rising. And as part of that commemoration, the Irish Writers' Centre commissioned work from leading Irish poets, including Elaine Ní Chulainn, Paul Muldoon, Jessica Traynor, Nuala Ní Dhomhnaill, and Theo Dorgan. And I'm going to share some of those works with you. But I would like to start with a poem about James Connolly, which was written by Liam McGowan in 1933. James Connolly is a much admired figure. He was a son of poor Catholic immigrants to Edinburgh, and he was 11 when he left school and started his working life. He became a Marxist revolutionary socialist and was a member of the Industrial Workers of the World. In Ireland, he founded the Irish Socialist Republican Party, and he went to the US, but he returned to Ireland in 1903 and he organised a huge Irish Trade and General Workers Union. And they went on, himself and James Larkin went on and formed the Irish Citizen Army. And then in 1916, he agreed that all these various contingents, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, the Irish Citizen Army, and the Irish Volunteers should come together to launch this 1916 Rising and the GPO. James Connolly was seriously wounded in the shoulder and in the ankle during the Easter resurrection, and he was executed in his stretcher on the 12th of May. So Liam McGowan wrote this poem entitled Connolly. The man was all shot through that came today into the barrack square. A soldier, I am not proud to say, we killed him there. They brought him from the prison hospital to see him in that chair. I thought his smile would far more quickly call a man to prayer. Maybe we cannot understand this thing that makes these rebels die. And yet all things love freedom and the spring clear in the sky. I think I would not do this deed again for all that I hold by. Gaze down at my rifle at his breast. But then, a soldier I. They say that he was kindly, different too, apart from all the rest. A lover of the poor, and all shot through, his wounds ill-dressed. He came before us, faced us like a man. He knew a deeper pain than blows or bullets. ere the world began. Died he in vain? Ready, present, and he just smiling. God, I felt my rifle shake. His wounds were opened out, and round that chair was one red lake. I swear his lips said, "Fire," when all was still before my rifle spat that cursed lead. And I was picked to kill a man like that. Elaine Ní Chulainn also wrote her poem in honour of James Connolly, which I'm going to read now for you. When I think of all the false beginnings, the man was a pair of hands, the woman another pair, to be had more cheaply. The wind blew. The children were thirsty when he passed by the factory door. He saw them. They were moving and then waiting, as many as the souls that crowded by Dante's boat that never settled in the water. What weight to ballast that ferry? They are there now, as many as the souls blown by the winds of their desire, the airs of love, not one of them weighing 1 ounce against the tornado that lifts the lids of houses, that spies where they crouch together inside until the wind sucks them out. It is only the wind. But what braced muscle, what earthed foot can stand against it? What voice so loud as to be heard shouting, "Enough"? He had driven the horse in the rubbish cart. He knew the strength in the neck under the swishing mane. He knew how to tell her to turn, to back or stand. He knew where the wind hailed from. He studied its language. It blew in spite of him. He got tired waiting for the wind to change, as we are exhausted waiting for that change, for the voices to shout, "Enough," for the hands that can swing the big lever and send the engine rolling away to the place we saw through the gap in the bone, where there was a painted room, music, and the young people dancing on the shore, and the old man of the sea had been sunk in the wide, calm sea. His sea moves under the wind and shows nothing, not where to begin. But look for the moment, just before the wave of change crashes and goes into reverse. Remember the daft beginnings of a fatal century and their sad endings. But let's not hold back our hand from the lever. Remember James Connolly, who put his hand to the work, who saw suddenly how his life would end and was content because men and women would succeed him and his testament was there and he trusted them. It was not a bargain. In 1916, the printer locked the form. He set it in print. The scribes can't alter an iota. Then the reader comes and it flowers again like a painted room. And so the last poem I'm going to share with you today is one written by Jessica Traynor, and it's called A Demonstration. It starts off by saying, "Letter by this morning's post to say I may go home for Christmas if I won't have a demonstration." Do they picture bands? Signed, Dr. Kathleen Lynn. What might drive me, a doctor, to to jump out of reason and into the fire of rebellion, haunted by skulls that boast through the thin skin of children who ghost the alleyways, dying young in silent demonstration. I raise my own demonstration against my limits as woman and doctor. I remember those I've watched dying of gulping coughs, praise the mercy of gunfire that sights through women and children. I number those dead, count their skulls outside City Hall. A policeman's skull shattered by a bullet. This is less a demonstration, more a bewilderment of poets and children watched over by one errant doctor. My convictions temper in the fire and quicklime of what follows. The dying man brought out and shot at dawn. The ever-dying Cuchulainn with his necklace of skulls, all that spitting revolutionary fire. And my part in that demonstration won't be forgotten. But as a woman doctor, put down to hysteria or a lack of children. For what are women really but children themselves, living and dying without reason? They say real doctor might cure me, could measure my skull and tell its emptiness, demonstrate my zeal with nothing but a mindless fire. A rebel, dying strokes that nations fire, but starving children? Ask this doctor to number our gains in skulls. Expect a demonstration. So I hope you enjoyed my poems, which I picked for you this month. I'd like to end today with a lovely rendition of a very famous song called The Patriot Game. It's a song sung at many parties, at many family gatherings, a great favourite here. Ireland has great rebel songs, but I think this is one of my favourite. It was written by Brendan Behan's brother, Dermot Behan, I think his name was. And it's a lovely rendition that I found, and I hope you really enjoy it. So I'm going to turn over to the song now and say my goodbyes until next month.
Come all ye young rebels, and this twilight sing, for the love of one's country is a terrible thing. It banishes fear with the speed of a flame, and it makes us all part of patriot game. My name is O'Hanlon, and I'm just gone 16. My home is in Monaghan, where I was weaned. I learned all my life cruel England to blame, and now I'm part of patriot game. 'Tis barely 2 years since I wandered away to the local battalion of the Bowlie Hurley. I read of our heroes and I wanted the same, to play off my part in the patriot game. This island of ours for long been half free. 6 counties are under John Bolster and me. So I gave up my boyhood for to drill and to train, to play off my part in the patriot game. Told me how Conley was shot in the chair, his wounds from the battle all bleeding and bare, his fine body twisted, all battered and lame, and they soon made him part of the patriot game. Now as I lie here, my body all cold, I think of those traitors who bargained and sold, and I wish that my rifle had given the same to those quislings who sold out the patriot game. To those quislings who sold out the patriot